Welcome to this podcast episode brought to you by AGS Agriculture Global Solutions, your partner for better farming practices.
Good to be here. We've got a really practical topic lined up today, something I think every planter managing their own block will want to hear.
We do. And we're going to jump right in. Everyone listening knows weeds are a problem.
Yeah.
But I was going through this fascinating study from Segamat in Johor, and it makes you think differently. We usually see weeds as just, a mess to be cleaned up. But this research frames them more like a historical record of your field.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, it's true. The specific weeds you're seeing out there today, that's not random.
Right.
It's a direct result of your decisions from the past few years. Your pruning schedule, how you fertilize, what you spray, and when. It all leaves a signature.
And that signature has a very real cost. The study, which looked at estates right here in Malaysia, found that weeds can cause yield losses anywhere from 6% to as high as 20%.
And that 20% figure, that's the one that should really grab your attention.
Let's make that real. Say you've got a decent block. Maybe it's doing 20 tons of FFB per hectare. A 20% loss is 4 tons.
4 tons just gone. At today's prices, that is a huge amount of money that's just vanishing from your bottom line.
Vanishing into the ground, really. It's being stolen.
Stolen by competition, exactly. Weeds are just incredibly good at theft. They take nutrients, they take water, but the study points out something deeper. It's not just theft, it's moral. It's more like warfare.
This is where it got interesting for me. The report mentions allelopathic substances. Now, what does that actually mean for a planter on the ground?
Think of it like this. Certain weeds, especially the really noxious ones, they release their own natural herbicides into the soil.
From their roots?
From their roots or from their leaves as they decay. And these chemicals, they actively harm the oil palm's own roots. They inhibit growth.
So your palm isn't just competing for water, it's being drugged almost.
Well, that's a blunt way to say it, but yeah, it's being chemically suppressed. So you're putting down expensive fertilizer, and not only is the weed eating a chunk of it, it's also poisoning the ground so your palm can't even absorb what's left.
That's incredible. And that's before we even talk about the other problems.
Oh yeah. Pests. Weeds are perfect hiding spots. Rhinoceros beetle larvae, rat burrows, you name it. You don't see the problem until it's already done serious damage.
And fire risk, especially in the dry season.
A field full of dry weeds just kindling. You're not just risking a season's yield, you could lose the entire block. You could lose the whole asset.
Okay, so the cost of doing nothing is clearly very high. Let's talk about the solutions, because the study in Segamat looked at 3 very different management styles.
It did, and that's the core of it.
Yeah.
They compared 3 estates, KG Sri Ramat, Felda Medoy, and KG Loga.
All right, let's start with KG Sri Ramat. It was a 10-year-old estate. What was their approach?
They were what you'd call a low-input model. The owner was only spraying herbicide twice a year and pruning just once a year.
Just once a year for pruning. That sounds minimal.
It was. And the result, as you can imagine, was a bit of a jungle. They had the highest number of different weed species. Because there was so little pressure, pretty much everything had a chance to grow.
Okay, so that's one extreme. Now, what about Felda Medoy? Same age, about 9 years old.
Totally different philosophy. Felda Medoy was the high-input example. They were spraying herbicide 4 times a year.
Every quarter.
Every quarter. And pruning 3 times a year.
Whoa, hold on. 4 rounds of spraying, 3 rounds of pruning. That's a serious investment in labor and chemicals.
It is, absolutely. A significant cost.
And the result was, of course, a very clean field. The study says they had the fewest weeds. But here's the question. Did it actually pay off?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I mean, if I'm a smallholder, I'm thinking about my margins. Did they spend all their extra yield on the cost of keeping that field looking like a golf course?
And that is the trade-off. The high-input strategy definitely works to reduce competition. But you're right, there's a point where you get diminishing returns.
Right.
And if you spray so much the ground is bare, you can create other problems. Soil erosion is a big one. And you kill off the beneficial soft weeds that help keep the soil healthy.
So the ideal strategy is somewhere in the middle, between the jungle and the golf course.
That seems to be the lesson. Which brings us to the third estate, KG Loga. They were older, 19 years, and they were the moderate ones. Spraying 3 times, pruning twice.
A middle ground result.
A middle ground result, yes. But there was another crucial difference between these estates that had nothing to do with management.
You're talking about the land itself.
Exactly, the elevation. This detail is so important. Felda Medoy, the super clean estate, is higher up, about 38 feet above sea level.
Okay.
But KG Sri Ramat, The jungle is way down at 13 feet.
So it's sitting in a low-lying area,
Hmm.
a basin.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And where does water collect? Downhill.
Right.
Where does nutrient runoff end up?
Yeah.
Downhill. That estate had naturally higher weed pressure because the conditions were just perfect for them.
That's a really actionable point. You can't just copy your neighbor's schedule.
Yeah.
If your block is on a slope and theirs is in a flat valley, you're dealing with two completely different environments.
You absolutely are. The valley is getting free water and fertilizer from the hill. The weeds there are going to be on steroids. You might need that extra spraying round in the valley, but you could save money on the hill.
Let's get into the specifics then. The rogues gallery. The study found 43 species, but a farmer can't be looking for 43 different plants. Who are the main culprits?
Well, the number one family was Poaceae, the grasses. They made up about 27% of everything they found.
And grasses love sunlight.
Thrive on it. But if we narrow it down to the single worst offender, the number one enemy by a long shot was Acistasia gangetica.
Acistasia. The study gave it an importance value index of 6.31. What does that mean in simple terms?
It means it was dominant. That score combines how dense it is, how frequently it appears, and how much area it covers. So Acistasia wasn't just there, it was everywhere. It was taking over.
That's the creeping one with the little white or pukul flowers, right?
That's the one. It forms a really thick mat on the ground and just smothers everything else. If you see that, you know you have a serious density problem on your hands.
Okay, so that's public enemy number one. Who's number two?
Number two was Clidemia hirdeata. Some people call it soapbush. It's more of a woody shrub.
And the issue with that one?
It's just very tough, and it spreads easily. It makes these little berries, birds eat them, and then they fly all over your plantation, spreading the seeds.
So it's hard to control the source.
Yeah.
And number three, I think everyone knows this one.
Oh, yes. Imperata cylindrica, lalang.
The old enemy. Every planter in Malaysia has a story about fighting lalang. Why is it so hard to get rid of?
It's the root system, the rhizomes. You can slash it, you can burn the top, but all its energy is stored underground. It just comes right back. And like we said, it's a massive fire hazard.
And number four on the list.
Trema cannabina. It's another one of those fast-growing woody plants.
So the big four are Acistasia, Clidemia, lalang, and Trema. When you walk your field, those are the faces to look for.
Exactly. And the study noticed something about how they grow. They don't spread out evenly, they clump.
They clump.
Yeah. They find the best spots.
Makes sense.
Maybe a gap in the palm canopy where the sun gets through, or a low spot where water gathers, and they concentrate there.
That's actually useful information, isn't it?
It is. It means you don't necessarily need to blanket spray your entire field.
Yeah.
You can spot spray.
Right. Target the infection.
Precisely. You see a patch of Acistasia starting to form a mat. You hit that patch hard and fast before it has a chance to spread to the next row.
Okay, let's talk about the tools we have. We mentioned spraying, but I want to circle back to pruning. The study really treats pruning as a weed control method. Most people just see it as what you do to get to the fruit.
It's so much more than just harvest access. Pruning is how you manage light. Remember the grasses, the Poaceae? They need sunlight. If you can maintain a good closed canopy, you're using shade as a natural herbicide.
But wait, the low-input estate, Sri Ramat, they only pruned once a year. Wouldn't that mean more fronds and more shade?
You'd think so, but it's counterintuitive. When you don't prune enough, the canopy gets messy and disorganized. Dead fronds block light in some places, but you get these irregular gaps where the sunlight punches right through to the ground.
Ah, I see. So disciplined pruning creates a more uniform shade.
Correct. And what you do with those pruned fronds matters too. You can stack them in the interrows to create a physical mulch barrier. That's free weed control right there.
Now for the big one, chemicals. The study mentions 72% of all agricultural chemicals used in Malaysia are herbicides. We're very reliant on them.
We are. And this is the danger of that high-input Feldemedoy model. Spraying the same thing 4 times a year, every year, is basically a recipe for creating herbicide resistance.
How does that happen exactly?
Well, imagine you spray a field. You kill 99% of the weeds. But there's always that 1% that has some random genetic quirk that helps it survive.
The lucky few.
The lucky few. And now, with all their competition gone, they have all the sunlight, all the water, all the nutrients, so they thrive and they reproduce. And before you know it, your entire field is populated by the descendants of that resistant 1%.
And your herbicide stops working.
It becomes useless. That's called weed succession. The study makes it clear that while frequent spraying looks good in the short term, it's a long-term risk.
So the answer has to be rotation then.
It has to be. You need to rotate the mode of action, not just the brand name. Use different chemicals. And honestly, sometimes you need to learn to live with a few of the less harmful weeds.
Right.
A ground cover of soft weeds is much better than bare, eroding soil.
A managed ecosystem rather than a scorched earth policy.
Exactly. Suppress the bad guys, the Asastasia, the lalang, but don't declare war on everything that's green.
One last factor. Fertilizer. They used organic fertilizer in the study, which is generally a good thing for soil health.
It is. It leaches less, improves the soil. But here's the thing. A weed doesn't care where the nitrogen comes from.
Food is food.
Food is food. And if you're broadcasting that good organic fertilizer everywhere, including the inner rows where the weeds are, you're just paying good money to grow world-class weeds.
You're feeding the enemy.
You are. Your fertilizer placement has to be precise. Put it in the weeded circle around the palm base where the palm can actually get it.
Okay, let's wrap this up with a clear plan. We talked about elevation, light management through pruning, and the risks of resistance. If I'm a planter listening to this, what's my first step tomorrow morning?
Your first step is to get out of the truck, walk your rows, and do a census. You're looking for the big three we mentioned: Asastasia, Clydemia, and lalang.
And if I find Asastasia?
You check your canopy for light gaps, you check your fertilizer placement, and you spot spray those clumps before they take hold.
If I see lalang?
That's a red alert. Lalang is a fire risk and a huge resource hog. You need a plan to wipe it out, probably with a targeted systemic herbicide.
And remember the terrain.
Absolutely. Know your field.
Yeah.
Except that the low-lying areas will need more attention. You can budget your time and money more effectively that way.
So it's about being observant. It's not about just following a calendar. It's about responding to what the field is telling you.
That's it exactly. What you do today determines the weeds you'll fight next year. And getting it right protects those tons of FFB you work so hard for.
Remember to visit our AI farming assistant at cropdrive.ai to learn more on how to increase your oil palm yields and incomes. Thanks for listening.